Okay, today is called matrix multiplication. And so here is a matrix problem where you got to multiply. I wish it was as simple as just like this number gets multiplied by that number and you put it here. It is not that simple. That was a good guess. That's I think what this guess was. You know, then you go 3 times 7 would make 21. It's not that simple. If it was, I wouldn't have said it was hard. Because that would be pretty easy. That's kind of like how we did adding. If this was a plus right here, it would be as simple as 1 plus 5 makes 6, and 3 plus 7 makes 10, etc. Do you get how that's how easy adding is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And scalar multiplication, you throw a 2 in front, and then you go 2 times the 1, and then you'd add 5. Get the idea? You just take all these numbers and times them by 2. But see, that's the problem. If you want to times all of these numbers here by 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, it's not like that either. Because otherwise I could just times them all together. 3 times 4 is 12, times 1 is 12, times 2 is 24, and then just throw a 24 in front. That's different. That's a different kind. That's called scalar. That would make everything 24 times bigger. Sure, that'd be easy and no problems there. So how do you actually do it? All right. Remember me saying that rows then columns was important at your RC? You do it in that order. Here's why. Let's list what this is. How many rows in this guy and how many columns? 2 by 2. And what about this guy? 2 by 2. Now, it's really easy when they're the same. You know they're going to work. If it's exactly the same, it's going to kind of get along. So these two matching up in the middle is what really matters. And if those match up, then these two, it tells you what size matrix you're going to have. All right, so you can multiply matrices that are really weird looking as long as these two are the same. As long as the number of columns in this one, remember it's row, column, and the number of rows in this one match up. So let me give you an example of a weird one. I could do a 1 by 4 and a 4 by 2, and they are strange shapes. 1 row, 4 columns would be like this. 2, 0, 8, negative 5. That's a 1 by 4. Agreed? And a 4 by 2 has 4 rows and 2 columns. Okay, so that's like 2, 4, 1, 5, 7, 8, 0, negative 10. Would you agree that that's a 4 by 2? Those can be multiplied with each other. So the first job you have is to like lay out exactly what are they. This one's 1 by 4, this one's 4 by 2, and then do you remember me telling you how to tell what the answer matrix is? In this case? No, 4 and 4 match up. That's all they do is they say, yeah, these will work. The 1 and the 2 tells you, take a guess, which one's rows, which one's columns. 1 is a rows, because it's always rows first, always RC. Okay, so it's 1 row and 2 columns. That would look like this. Let's say this is the answer. Would you agree that that's got 1 row and 2 columns? Okay. So the answer to this question is going to look like that. I'm not saying it's actually 24 and 11, but there's only 2 spots. 1 here and 1 here. That way it'll have 1 row and 2 columns. Okay, now I'm just going to plow through this and show you how to do it. It's not that bad. Would you agree that this spot is row 1 and column 1? That's where that spot is, right? That little place is called row 1, column 1. Then be careful now because it's easy to mess this up. Is that row 2, column 2? No. What is it? Row 1, column 2. Row 1, column 2. And how many of you think you could do that? You can handle that part. Okay. That's the hard part because now you have made directions for yourself on how to do it. I'll show you what I mean. That number's a 0 down there. I got to remember to put it back in. So this is my directions. It says find row 1 and multiply it with column 1. Where's row 1 on this first matrix? Well, it's where, let me see if I can find my highlighter here. There. That's row 1, right? There only is one row. It's row 1. Where is column 1 in the other matrix? Like that, right? Now, logically, what numbers go together? 2 goes with 2. What does 0 go with? 1. What does 8 go with? What does 5 go with? Good. And since this problem is a what problem? It's a multiplication problem. You're going to multiply all of them. Now, if you multiplied all of them and then took all of the answers and multiplied them together, that would become an insanely big number. Do you get what I'm saying? So you add them. That's right. So 2 times the 2 plus 0 times the 1 plus the 8 times the 7 is 56 plus the negative 5 times the 0 is 0. And 2 times 2 is 4. And 0 times 1 is 0. So 0, or 4 plus 0 plus 56 plus 0. 56 plus the 4 makes 60. So that's how I got that number there. The answer is 60 something. I'd like you to figure out the other one. The other one's row 1 with column 2. Then, to see if you've got it right, you think you can say the answer is 40. Check with the kid next to you. See if they get the same number. Write it down. I want you to both have it written down. And you're brand new at this. It's okay to be wrong at this point. It's not like I've showed you how to do it 23 times. It's just once. Maybe you can catch on from just once. I know you're using that to multiply, but I would prefer it if you would use, you know, because it looks identical to texting. Yeah. I trusted you in the way I saw you reading the numbers onto it. I knew you weren't texting, but phones should not be used for that. All right. Can you put your phone in your backpack too? Yes. You do. The tests are done. So you also get your top 20s back in a bit here. Different reaction on that. All right. So did you say row 1 and column 2 this time? And therefore, those numbers go with these numbers. So 2 goes with 4 makes 8. Plus 0 goes with 5 is 0. 8 goes with 8 is 64. And 5 goes with 10, and they're both negative, makes it positive 50. Add them all up. 64 and 8 makes 72 plus 50 makes that 122? Yep. All right. How many of you had 122 for that number? Okay, good. So that's how you do matrix multiplication. Now, I obviously started that one and kind of showed you how. Remember the first step was this was a what by what? 4 by 1? A 1 by 4. And I knew that it would work with this one because this one was a 4 by 2. And if those match up, they work, right? So can we give you on the test ones that don't actually line up? Yes. And then you'd say the answer is no solution. Okay? So let's try this one. 3, 1, 1, negative 2. And you're going to multiply that with 4, 1, 3, and that's it. My first question is, does it work? And if it does, what kind of answer matrix are you going to have? Is it like long and skinny? Is it tall and, is it short and fat? Is it tall and skinny? Is it? All right, so rows then columns. It's got 2 rows by 3 columns. Remember, columns hold up buildings. Okay, 2 by 3. And then over here, we have 1 row and 3 columns. Can this be multiplied? No. because that doesn't match up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to change it so it will match up. Now, that's a what by what and a what by what. 1 by 3 and 1 by 3. Does that match up? No. I know, I said I was going to lie. I lied. It's just a little innocent lie. Because a lot of kids think if they look the same, therefore they're going to work. You got to have the end ones on each, I guess you could call them the middle ones, line up. All right, so then how could I rearrange this thing so it would work? Okay, so how could I change this one right here so that it actually works? Make it a what by what?
3 by 1.
All right. And I could make it a 3 by anything. I'm going to make it a 3 by 2, just otherwise it's a little too easy. So this one's going to be a 3 rows and 2 columns. 104, am I doing it right? 5, what do you mean what? No, what do you mean? What? All right, this is the kind of things that kids have trouble with and you're catching it. This is good. So it's supposed to have 2 columns. How many columns do I have? 3. All right. So then how about this? Does that work? It's got 3 rows and 2 columns? Yeah. All right. Go ahead. Multiply them out, and hopefully you can tell what size matrix you have, and whether it's a up and down one or a left-right kind of matrix. You can tell by looking at these leftover ones. They'll tell you that it's a what something by something. I'll pause for a second while you try this. Okay, how many of you had this one right compared to the kid next to you? Okay, so let's see if you really were right, if you both made the same mistake. It's got 1 row and 2 columns, so there's 2 spots in my matrix. I like to make them like eggs. Okay, and then you just drop inside the egg, you drop what your answer is. You don't have to do it this way. I'm just trying to show you where there's two spots. Okay, now this one's row 1, column 1, and this one's row what? Row 1, column what? Column 2. Okay, so then I got to use on this one, I'm going to use the pens again here and go with row 1 and column 1. And once you get used to this, it's pretty quick. It's just 2 times 1, 0 times 5, 4 times 3. So what do you get? 14 is correct. Who had a 14 for that spot? Raise your hand if you did. All right, good. And the other spot. I'm moving this over a little bit. So I have 2 with 0, 0 with 2, and 3 negative 10 makes negative 30. There's your answer matrix, 14, negative 30. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Okay, good. Now, do you remember what I said could happen if we changed this to a variable like x? I don't like x because it looks like a time sign. I want to make it y. How about that? Do you get that that makes a little equation?
Yes.
All right. I'd like you, I know we know the answer to the whole thing is negative 30. That involves that y. But would you please write me an equation then that would have y in it? Give you a hint. It's row 1 and column 1 that involves, or column 2, sorry, that involves that. So rewrite me a little equation that has a y in it. We know it's negative 30, but that doesn't mean you know the answer. The answer is what's an equation that has y in it. Okay, so did you go 2 times 0 plus 0 times 2 plus 3 times y is equal to negative 30? You know what I'm saying? Okay, and you could simplify that a lot because these are 0, and then it's just 3y equals negative 30. See? All right. So given that, go to example 3. Without any help from me, let's figure out that answer. I'll pause while you try that. Okay, so our answers in this one came out to 67 and 80. Then I changed the 4 to a k, and we rewrote this as an equation. And this would be what you'd have as your equation. And of course, the k, when you solve it, would have to be 4. All right, so that's just reminding you could throw in variables. All right, so let's just skim through this thing quick and see if anything significant has changed. Do you get all these are pretty much the same? What if there's a variable? But this one doesn't have an answer. So what do? Would you agree this is a 2 by 2 and a 2 by 2? And then that these match up, and so therefore the answer is a 2 by 2. Okay, so where's the A going to go? In 1, 2, 3, or 4? Where's the A going to go? Just one?
No, row 1 and row.
I'd like you to do this one, and there'll be an A in more than one spot. You'll find out. This junior or senior? All right, or even sophomores.
Wait, can you give me like?
I suppose, pausing again. So I'm just going to start by labeling my little spots. This is row 1, column 1. This is row 1, column 2. This is row 2, column 1. This is row 2, column 2. You just have to know what each spot is, and then this is like a recipe. Take row 1, put it with column 1. Here's row 1. Here's column 1, and 1 goes with the 2A and makes it 2A. 3 goes with the 6, makes it 18, and you add 2A plus 18 goes right there. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Okay, good. And you probably have the rest of them right. Mr. AJ, would you tell me this one? Okay, you work on that one. I'll come back to you. Mr. S, give me any of the other 3. Okay, hurry up, catch up. If you just saw me do that one, you should be able to do it. I'll come back to you in a minute. Again, one of you guys is doing row 1 and column 2. That's the guy in the back corner. So why don't you, Mr. S, why don't you do this one, row 2 and column 1. Just got to circle row 2, circle column 1, put them together. All right. Miss S over there on the left side, what do you think that last spot is? Row 2, column 2. Everybody agree and also get 46 for that last spot. All right, good. So, yes, sir?
Row 1, column 2, I got 60.
Did you get the same thing? All right. Anybody else get 60?
No.
And you just gambled that he was right, didn't you? All right, you were in the middle of doing it? All right. Apparently, it's not 60, so I'm going to double check you by doing this. Here's row 1. Here's column 2. 1 times 7 is 7. 8 times 3 is 24. 24 and 7 is what you should have done. 24 and 7 makes 34, but then you subtract 3, 31. Anybody else get 31? All right. And then the very last one is this one, row 2, column 1. Do you have that one, Mr. S? What do you think? Okay, wait a minute. Row 2, column 1. I got so many things here, I gotta just clean it up a little bit. Row 2, column 1. Row 2, column 1. You can do this. Here's row 2. Here's column 1. Tell me what you get when I put those together. It's all right. Just go for it. So you do 2 times the 2A makes what? 4A. Keep going. Which is 24. 4A plus 24 is correct. It's okay. We all make mistakes. So don't pile on now. All right. I know there's a few annoying people that don't, but they sometimes do. They just don't get caught doing it. All right, so your homework for today is multiplying matrices. Let's look at the worksheet together. Make sure it's reasonably sized. I'm guessing there might be a few I could chop out. Okay, so here it is, matrix multiplication. First 2 are pretty straightforward, and there's a whole bunch of the same kind of thing. You know what? I think we can cross off 3 and 4 because they're pretty boring. They're pretty much the same exact thing as each other. Okay. 5 and 6 they're at least different sizes and they're in different places. So we'll do 5 and 6. 8's just large. It's not even that hard, so it's going to save you a ton of little busy work. We'll skip 8 also. So we're skipping 3 and 4 and 8. And then 3, 4, and 8. 3, 4, 8, 12 is another skip. And 14. Cutting down the busy work. You did have to, yeah. I could justify saying you have time to do it, but there is research that shows that doing extra problems, stuff you already understand, doesn't really help. So some homework is good. Too much homework just is for the sake of doing homework. So, all right, of course, you could argue that it'd be slightly better if you did a few more, but I also want to make it fair to you so that you keep doing your homework. All right, I'm going to stop at this point, and matrix multiplication is complete.